Before I go on, I would love to say my teaching method has changed over time because we're not beginners, and for things I need to like go in depth, I normally go in depth and I normally elaborate on them. But things I just need to introduce so you can go get them up and running by yourself. I normally just introduce them so that you crack your brain, make some research, and get to understand them better. But if you have any other questions, I am here to answer them. Okay, so today we'll be looking at DevOps and deployment automation. So under DevOps and deployment automation, we have just two items on the list. We have unit tests and CI/CD with GitHub Actions. And normally, unit test is not a DevOps thing. It's part of development. So first of all, look at unit tests using Mocha and Super tests. And then we'll look at CI/CD with GitHub Actions and how we can automate the whole process. So before we move on, I think we'll have to understand what tests are, what JavaScript tests are. I believe most of us have been writing code without tests, and we don't even know the importance of testing our code. So there are thousands of reasons why we test our code. To me, I test my code to speed up my workflow, and so I can have confidence and develop my software faster. And it also helps me ensure that I don't break existing code when making changes or something like that. So those are my two main reasons why I write code. But before we go further, I think we have to understand what tests are. So the most basic form of a test is just trying to find out, to know the value. I mean, to be sure of the result of what you claim to do, like to be sure of the result of what you claim to be the actual result. So if you say 1 + 1 is equal to 3 without proof, let's say you've written code to some numbers 1 and 2, and you assume the answer is 3, but without writing code, you won't be able to assure a user or assure yourself that the result is actually 3. So you have to test it and come to a conclusion that, oh, the test is passing, so that is the actual answer and my function is working as expected. So the most basic form of a test is we'll start writing tests in its basic forms. We'll create a new file here. Let's say mocha.js, like so. So the most basic form of a test, let's say const actual is equal to true, and const expected is also equal to, this is equal to false, like so. And we say if actual is not equal to expected, throw new error, like actual is not, it's actual is not expected, like this. So if you run NodeJs, so we've got an error here. Error, true is not false. So this is the basic form of a test. And you can run this by just running node mocha.js. So a test is actually a code that throws an error when the actual result of something does not match the expected output. So we can just use this piece of code to actually define what a test is. It's a code that throws an error when the actual result of something does not match the expected output. And it can get more complicated when you are dealing with code that depends on some states to be set up first, like logging in a user, fetching tasks in our keys, and making a request to a database and all of that. So this part here that says actual is not equal to expected, this is known as an assertion. And Node has this function, this assertion function. But we'll look at that a bit later. So let's write a more complex test. Let's see, we have a function here. Sum A and B return A plus B. I have another function. Subtract A, B, return A minus B. So let's see here. Let result and expected. So we'll come down and say if, and here we assign the result to, result is equal to sum, let's say 2 and 3. We say if then we say expected here is equal to, we expect our result to be 5. So we say if result is not equal to expected, what do you want to do? You want to throw error saying result is not, let's say result is not equal to expected, like this. Oops, expected. Expected. This ESLint thing, we can just change this. Well, let's leave it like this first. Then let's run node mocha.js. Okay, so our test is passing. So let's break this test. Let's say our expected is 4. Then run node mocha.js. Okay, so now we try to break our code and then test what we think we're testing, and we can see our test is actually working. Okay, so we're getting an error. This error is not properly formatted, but we look at that in just a minute. You can see error 5 is not equal to 4 because we expect this sum here is returning 5, 2 plus 3 return 5, and we expect our result to be 5, but then we mistakenly passed 4. And we can use our subtract function in the same way. You can see result is equal to subtract 3, 2. We say expected is equal to 1. Grab this, bring it down here, save it. Now run the code once more, the test. Okay, we can see that the second test is passing, but the first one is failing. But we don't know which is failing or which is passing. So in this case, let's break this one as well. And then 2 here. Run the test again. So the result subtract, okay. Okay. Function subtracts, okay. So our test is supposed to be failing, and result subtract expected is 2, 3. Okay, so once our code breaks here, it will not execute up to this point. So let's change this to 5 and then see the subtract test break. Okay, 1 is not equal to 2. So this one is passing and this one is breaking. But as you can see, this is not properly formatted and it's of less use. So what we want to do now, one of the most important part of the testing frameworks or assertion libraries is how helpful their error messages are. Like if you run Mocha or Jest, you see that when they fail, they output their error messages in red, and when they pass, the success message is outputted in green. So that is what makes testing libraries and assertion libraries more interesting. So what we want to do now is we want to use the NodeJs assert function to come here and import it. Import assert. Can actually import it from chai because chai also has assert function. I want to import it from node assert like this. So what we want to do now is we want to actually remove this function. Say assert strict equal, and then we say result, which is the actual, and then expected like this. Okay, we come back here, change this to 4, save it again, run this code. As you can see, assertion error, expected value to be strictly equal. 5 is not equal to 4. With all the generic message true and all of that, actual is 5 and expected for operator strict equal. At least this is more helpful than the one we've been running. And then let's change this as well. Copy this, paste it here. Run the code once more. And let's change this one to 5 so that the code will pass and this down one will fail. Okay, so now we have 1 is not equal to 2. Expected values to be strictly equal. Okay, so now these messages are actually a kind of helpful now, but not what we want. This is a test module. This is functionally equivalent to what we had before. The only difference is the error message. So the error message is a kind of a helpful. So the error thrown, the error thrown is not longer included, just the message and what we need. It includes our code in which we want to format this in such a way that it's more useful to us. Okay, so now what we want to do is we have our start function and we have all of this. So we'll go ahead and remove this. Then we will write a minimal, we start from writing our expect and to be function as all those testing frameworks do use. So what we will do is we'll come here and write function. They'll say expected. They'll pass in an actual as a parameter. Then we'll say return an object with a function of to be. And instead of this to be passing expected as a parameter, you say if actual is not equal to expected, what do you want to do? We want to throw a new error saying this error will say actual not expected, like so. Okay, this is expect and not expected. That's why I'm getting an error, expect. Okay, so now, unfortunately, we've done away with our result and all of that, but we can see come here and say, let's result and expected like this. With all these functions below, let's push them below and then come up here and say something like, okay, now we have our sum. Result is equal to sum 2, 3. And then this is result and not result. And our expected is equal to 5. This is the result we expect to get. So now we run our test. We say expect result dot to be expected. This. Let's run our test and see. Okay, result goes on. Result is not defined. Oops, result is not defined. Okay, and here is result. Let's run it once more. Okay, so our test is passing. So let's break it. Let's break it and change this to 4. Oh, so this is our terminal. Okay, play the terminal first, then run our test. Okay, so now as we can see, we have error 5 is not 4 object.to-be, and we can see where the error is occurring: module 2115, file, the module, and the error. So we are gradually building a testing library, and as you can see, we are getting a complaint here from ESLint. Expect was used before it was defined. And I don't need to explain this. We can actually define a function at the end of a file and use it at the top, which is known as hosting. Function hosting. Wow. As a JavaScript developer, you're supposed to know that if you studied functions. Okay, so cool. So now we can add a bunch of assertions on that object. We return to match regex, to have length, and all of that. Okay, so we can even say to have type. We'll say expected. Here I will say if type of expected exactly equal to So, let's say to have to be string. Let's change it to be string. If type of, and then we'll say if type of expected is not equal to string. Let's change it to have type. Okay. Okay, to have type. So if type of expected is equal to number, we throw new error. Expected is not a string. And this is actually not what we want, but then it's already declared. Let's say exp, like so. And then we'll come up here and we'll see expect result dot to have type. So we'll pass in a type here. And we say if this is not equal to the type of that very type. If type of say is not equal to type. Oh, then we should say expected is not let's say type. Type like this. Okay. Now expect result to have type of number. So let's run this and see what it got. Actual is not expected. Let's change it to 5. And run once more. Okay, our test is passing. And here we're passing a number. Let's pass a string. And then we'll come down here, run the test once more. Then we'll have a cabli. 5 is not a string. Wow, wow, wow. So as you can see, you can add a bunch of functions in this expect function, and they will work as expected. So you can return to have length, to if it's a string, to have type, and then this type here, you just pass in the type you expect it to have. Now you are passing in a string. They will check if type of expected is not equal to type. Showing you are expected is not type. So we have 5. 5 is not a string. Okay, but if you come here and we see, let's see, I'll have, this is a string. And then we'll run our test. 5 is not a string. Okay. Oh, it's showing 5. 5 is not a string. It's not type. Type expected. Okay. So we have expected it as 5 and we're passing it. Okay. So that's just it. We can actually change this to a string of sum, then do away with this one, and then bring in our let's say result, do away with this one, and then let our result be a string of sum, and then we'll run our test once more. Undefined is not a string. Okay, result to 12 type string. So we're getting an error. Okay, so that's that. We're not actually building testing library, but we're just trying to understand how all these things work under the hood. So as you can see, we have this, but then our tests are now good. Things are now looking good, but now there's a problem. If we see that error message, how do we know it's let's remove this one and focus on what we're doing. So we'll have this, and then we'll add the subtract. Subtract here, we'll have -1. Okay, so let's break this to 1 instead of -1, and then run our test. Now why -1 is not 1. So the thing is, if you have a bunch of tests like 5, 10, 11, how do we know that the test that is failing is this one or this one? Because we don't know. This is actually showing actually it's not expected, but we're seeing -1 is not 1. So we don't know which is which. Is it what if we pass in -3, right? We also get an error. -1 is not 5. So we don't know if it's the last one or the first one. So what we want to do is we want to make our test more readable. We want to make our errors more readable. So we can come down here and do something like, okay. So now we want to write the test function that they've been using. So what we want to do here is we say function test. Then we'll pass in the title of the test and I call back. Inside of this function, what we want to try, want to catch errors. So inside of our try function, you see call back because our test is passing. The function, the callback function, we call it, and then we log. I wish we have something like a mark, but let's just do something like this. Our title here, and then our test is passing. Then we log, yes, this is passing, and this is our title. Then we come down to our error. If it's not passing, we log our error on the console, and then we do something like x title. Then we log our error, the actual error console. Okay, so now it's time to use our test function. So what we want to do now is we want to say, come up here, remove all of this gibberish. I think we'll make it more readable. We'll remove all of these things. I will start afresh. We say test. The title is add numbers. Add numbers with a callback function of we say const. The result is equal to sum 2 and 3, and we say expected is equal to 5. So what do we want to do? We want to test. Say expect results to be expected, like this. So let's run our file. Let's run node mocha.js, add numbers, and our test is passing. Because as you can see this mark, I don't know how to make this more interesting. Add numbers is passing. Okay, let's copy this, bring it down. We say subtract numbers. Then we will say result is subtract, say 2 from 3, and we say expected is -1. Then let's run our test once more. Subtract, the add numbers is passing and the subtract numbers is also passing. So let's break the first one here and change it to 4. Then run the file again. Oops, what am I doing? Create the terminal, run the file once more. No. See, there's something in front of this. Okay. So as you can see now, we have this is failing, add numbers, error. Now we can see the actual test that is failing. This here is not X. It times to indicate that the test is failing. Add numbers is failing. It's an error. 5 is not 4. So we now know the test, the actual test that is failing and the one that is passing. So we have subtract numbers. The subtract numbers is passing. So if we come here now, we change this to 5. Come here and change this to 1, and run our test. Now we can see the add numbers is passing and the subtract numbers is failing. So we can change it to 4 and see the both fail at once. Run test. And we have add numbers is failing, subtract numbers with error message, error -1 is not 1, and 5 is not 4. So this is great. We've successfully built our mini testing framework. So let's change this to -1 and 5. Okay. So run our test. Add numbers is passing and subtract number is passing. So this is just how all these things work under the hood. So all you need to do now after writing your testing framework is just for you to go back and write a command line tool that will search in your project and run all your tests for you if you run npm run test. So, but there's an advanced stuff, and you can use Commander, you can use Yags, and we have many packages, anyone you wish to use. But look at this, you can add a bunch of assertions in here, and any how you want to do it, you want to format it, and this test function, try, callback, and all of that. So this is just it. Okay, so now let's go back to now. If you use Mocha, you will understand Mocha very well because you already know what's going on under the hood. So let's check out how Mocha works. We have a describe function, and this describe function is similar to our similar to our test function that takes in a title and a callback. Okay, but this, in that case, the describe takes in only a title and a callback and then invokes a callback without any error. So in this case, what is identical to our test function here is the it's. This is how our test function works, and the it's here is exactly to our test function. And if you're wondering why we have two and equal here, you can actually nest an equal function inside of the two function to get this. So we can actually see, as you can see, you have 1 + 1 is equal to 2 to equal 2. And the same thing we've been doing in our Mocha test. Okay, so I urge you to go learn what unit tests are, what the testing pyramid, the test pyramid. We have the unit test, integration test, end-to-end test, and we have static test as well. So you learn the importance of testing and make sure you get yourself accustomed to testing so that anywhere you find yourself, you can be to run code or do all of that. So we've learned how to use Mocha like this. this is not actually this. What is happening here is Mocha, because these functions here we have expect to all are coming from the Mocha. But this expect is coming from char, because Mocha's assertion functions are not as powerful as char's and assertion functions. But then they describe and it all these are coming from Mocha. But these expect to equal are coming from char. Okay, so what about super tests? In testing, I installed super tests in our previous class as a development dependency super test. So here is super test. So super test is just used for testing. Super test is used for testing API requests, testing APIs. So what you want to do is just learn how to use super test and how to integrate it with Mocha and test our APIs. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go back to our index test, and you should learn how to organize your tests. If you are testing, you can come in here. If you have anything to test in your model, then inside of your test, you have controllers. And if you have anything to test in your index, this is your index file, which represents your source/index is source/index.js. This index test.js. So inside of the controllers, you can then create a file of get test.js like this, test.js. And you can write the get test inside of this file. You create another one for login, register, and all of that, so that you isolate your test. You want your code base to be clean. But in this case, we're going to be doing everything inside of this file, because we're just learning how to do all this, and I will introduce you to everything, so you can go in our next promotional task. You'll be getting more promotional tasks on all of this, so you pay close attention. So we want to use let's do this. We want to use super tests to make a request, but first of all, let's create we come to our env file here, and what is happening is base URL is equal to http://local 3000. This. Then let's come back to our stage and see. Base URL is equal to process env base URL. And this will tell you to use object destructuring. So come back here, prefer destructuring problem, fix this. Okay. So we have this now. And let's remove this one. First of all, learn how to use super tests to make requests. So we'll come up here, import request from super test. This. And the next thing we'll learn how to use only super test and then integrate it with Mocha. So what we want to do is we say request base URL. So we say get, what is we say get tasks. And don't be confused, the base URL is http://local host 3000. This is our base URL, and then get /tasks. So this is what's going on here. Get tasks. And then what do we want after getting the tasks? Then we say, and it's a function of error. Remember, in Node, errors are caught first. So our error will come first, and then the response second. And inside of our function, we say if there are any errors, we just throw error. If no errors, we want to log our response. Response like this. Wait. Disable this in the entire file. Oh, one. Let's leave like this. Yes, links here. Giving us. Let's comment this out like this. So npm run test. Okay, so this is breaking. Cannot read properties of one validating address. Okay, so this is Mocha, and this will not actually get to run except to integrate it with Mocha. But this is making, we're trying to get the tags from this best URL. So what we want to do now is we want to integrate this with Mocha. So how do we integrate this with Mocha? We want to, in adding Mocha, we pull in assert, and then we write our describe outside function. Let's come here, comment this out, come up here and say describe get tasks. Let's say that is the title of our test. And in here we pass in a function, a callback function. And inside of this callback function, we write our test, our first. This is a test block, and this is a unit test, just a single test inside of this test block. So inside there we say it should return a status code of 401. That's it done. Which is a Mocha team. You can go check out Mocha documentation and make sure you learn Mocha very well. And in here, we have our done argument passing this function, and then we pull in our requests. This request that we have here, cut it, bring it here, paste it, and then comment it like this. Okay. So after all of this, then we call our done. Done. So let's run our test once more and hope it does not fail. Okay. Should return status code 401. Can you report to unvalidated address? Okay. Our app is not actually running. npm run dev. Let's try it once more. npm run test. See the same thing? 0 passing, 1 failing. Get that switch to using address. Test. Okay. Expect 401. Run test. Type error. Let's check out this error very well before we continue. Can we report a reading address, super test, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Or let's pull this. And pass in here as a string. This is localhost 3000. Localhost 3000. Okay, let's try this once more. One test. Boom! And it's passing. Should return a status code of 401. And it's passing. Okay, let's change this to 200. Test. And our test is failing. Should return a status code of 401. Uncaught error. Expected 200. Okay, but got 401 unauthorized. That's great. So now this is failing. Let's change this back to 401. And the reason why is because we are not logged in. So we're trying to access this task, and this is unauthorized route. You have to log in before you can access the task. So to return a 401 unauthorized. And now let's run this test and get access to our response. Here's our response. We have the path get method gets and the text message unauthorized. Okay. So that's awesome. And we have you can see expect with a message of unauthorized like this. Then let's remove this and comment it out. Oops, getting an error here. Comment this one to out like this. We'll clear the terminal, run the test once more. And the test is passing. Okay, let's remove this one. Run it once more. Oops, still passing. Expect message. Sure what I'm doing. The test is supposed to be failing. It's like expect message unauthorized. Okay. Oops. And it seems I'm getting it all wrong here. I want to get access to the message, but that is not okay. Expect content. Let's check the content type. Application JSON. It's still passing. Okay. It's actually application JSON. Let's say text HTML content type. So what's happening? Why is our text just passing and passing and passing? And then we're just passing it down here and then comment it out. Good. Okay. Expected content type of text HTML, but got application JSON character set UTF-8. Okay. So now if you pass in application JSON, it will still fail. And to say now should return a status code 401. Expected content application JSON, but got this. So we say okay. Character set is now equal to UTF-8. Run it again. Now this is passing. That's great. Okay. Now see dot expect. Remove this expect. We'll do something like message expect an object here, regular expression. Now let's pass in the done. Yeah, and remove it here. Only when we're done with a function test that we can pass in the done. So we can come here and see message of unauthorized. Let's test it once. Run test. Okay, expected body message unauthorized to match message unauthorized. Okay, so this is supposed to be in capital letters like this. So if you run it now, nope. Let's run our test, npm run test. Okay, so now it's passing. Now, what you want to test is you return a status code of 401, and we're adding more other tests here. Let's remove this whole thing like this, and then copy this, copy, paste, paste. Then come here and say this is correct, but then we remove these two. Then we pass in a down here. And the second test says should have a content type of application JSON. Then we remove this one and this one. Passing out done. This is a mocha thing. The done is a mocha thing, and the reason why I'm not talking about it, I want you to go find out by yourself what the function is. So it should contain a message value of unauthorized. So we'll do away with these two. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and run our npm run test. Should return a status code of 401. So all our three tests are passing, three passing. So you can actually come up here and break one. Let's change it to, okay, let's say 400. And then run the test once more. Okay. So you can see two passing. The first one should return a status code of 401 is failing and it's appearing in a red. Should these two are passing, we'll have two passing, one failing. Should return a status code of 401. So the error message is expected 400, bad request, but got 401 unauthorized. So that is sweet. And what I want you here now, okay, I'll add another test. Let's change it back to 401. I'll copy the whole block. Command C, Control C on Windows. Host slash session alt slash login. Or we can see host slash session alt. Then we can come here and then say should log the user in. We can say slash session alt slash login. And then we expect this to have 200. This. That's not all. Let's remove all of this. 200. And send data. Instead of we have username. So now let's use a username that is not username of let's say Sesu and password of Sesu185. Okay, I believe this user in our database. Now let's run the test once more. npm run test. Okay. So expect 200, okay, but got 404 not found. Okay. cut this and bring it here. Like this. 404 not from one test. So okay, we'll go 404 not found. Okay, let's say 185. The test. Okay, it's slash session out slash login. Let's check now controllers if it's actually controllers here. No session out. To the route session out. Login slash session out login. Login and we're getting an error. So why is this so? Let's go back to our test. Index 5. Okay, this is a post. That's why it's not found. Post requests. Now let's do it once more. Boom. We have okay, one failing. Timeout of for 18 tests and shutdown is called. Oh, remove this. And done. Okay. One test. Okay. So now we have two test block. Should log a user in. So we've logged in. Now let's change this. Let's remove this file, save this thing, and then run this test again. Oh, it's still passing. It's not supposed to. It's like we have a user without username. Wow. This is strange. Okay. This is strange. Why is it working? For sending a username and a password. Whoa. Okay. That end. It's a function of error and response. Now if error, so let's log response and then done it's what? Let's do this like this. Done error like this. Okay, so now let's remove this. Run the test once more. Good. Expected 201 created, but got 400 bad requests. Okay, so this is working as expected, and let's take this up here. Now let's see, SGH. Try it once more. Expected 201 created, got 400 bad requests. Okay. let's make it a 200 and say 185. The reason why it's 400 bad requests is because if you come to your session auth and in controllers, you will see that if the username of the password is not correct, I think we do not handle that here. Invalid credentials and what we send is a bad request of 400. So that's the reason why we're getting 400. Okay, so let's run it once more. Okay, so let's change this to a regular function. And then we're done. And inside of this, you say this time out, and then we make it 5 seconds. Okay, let's try it once more. Okay, I think this time around it actually worked. Yes, and then let's not log the response because it's taking our space here. Let's run the test. Don't invoke with no error request method test to log the user in. Once more. Okay, so it's waiting for the request. Okay, so now our test is working as expected, even though it's taking 3 seconds. It's showing a 3,885 milliseconds, that is 3.885 seconds. But then it's working as expected. But if you come back here and change this to 4, then run this once more, then run test. And then this will fail. Expected 200 okay, but got 400 bad requests. Okay, so this is the behavior we want. And this here is known as mocking, but we'll look at that in depth in our next class. Okay, so you can actually register a user and then listen to this. And then we expect message, message will be login success and errors will be null. Okay, let's run it once more. Getting an error message, login success, error not to match, login success, errors no. And the reason why is because this here is having a dot, a full stop. That's the reason why it is failing. And you can see how you test. So let's wait for the user to log in. Another error, stated body message, login success, errors not to match. Let's remove this, make it this. Run test. So another error, expected this to match this. Okay, so what's the problem here? Errors. Login success. Okay. I think everything has to be the same because of, I think it's because of that space. If not, I don't know what else. Okay. Just because of the space here, because we're not using regular expressions and everything has to match the response. Okay, so this is actually our test. We tested this and we're not going further. We will actually leave it here. And your assignment later on will be to complete this, but for now, let's just leave it here. Now you can see we have two test blocks, post session out and then get slash start. Should return a status code of 401, should have a content type of application JC. And the same thing we did there, you can actually come here like this and then copy this thing. Like this. Make sure I'm copying the right thing. It's, I think we copy this. Is that it? Okay, this. We copy this up to this point. Command C, say Command V, Command V. Then you come up here, you change should log a user in. And the reason for this timeout 5,000 is we are setting these functions, this test timeout to 5,000 because initially it's 2,000. The default timeout is 2,000, but because this is an asynchronous request, it will take some time. So we want to set this to this or timeout. And the reason why I changed this arrow function to a regular function is an arrow function does not have its own this. It's only a regular function that has a this keyword. So that's the reason why I changed this, because if you try to invoke a this here, let's say this, no autocomplete, and it will not even work because an arrow function does not have its own this context. So what you want to do here is should log the user in, should return, okay, should return a status code of 200, and then here we'll remove this one. Down here, okay, we'll also remove this one. We'll have only two tests inside of it. Down here we say should return a response message of login success, and then we remove this one. We run our tests once more. npm run test. So we're waiting for the asynchronous. Okay. So this has completed. This completed in 4 seconds, 4.1 seconds, and this completed in 781 milliseconds. That's 0.781 seconds. So we have 5 passing tests. The get task has should return a status code this, and then the post, which is the login session also should return a status code of 200, should return a response message of login success. So if you come up here and then break something like, and if you want to make it more interesting, you can say const user is equal to, remove this thing, let it be here, and then say user. Come down here, remove this as well. See user. Then up here, you can see, since this is giving us tough time, you can see const base URL is equal to http://localhost 3000, like this, and then we come here, base URL, request base URL, and then we come here and say base URL and base URL. This also should be a base URL, and let's avoid repetition. Just and this is that. So just come here like this. I think this doesn't need to wait for 5 seconds. It's only the first one. You can actually change this to a regular function, an arrow function. Let's run it again once more. Implement test. Boom. Connection refused. Connection refused. What's the problem? 3,000, not 300. 3,000. Once more. Okay. The first 3 tests are passing. Aha. And all our tests are passing. Okay. So in this case, what we are testing is working, but you may be asking, why am I not testing? So that testing for the tax to be returned. And that is, we'll talk about that later in our function class. So you you need to go and learn how to, first of all, because you cannot try to get this tax without logging in. And inside of this describe function, inside of here, you can write something like before each. Then this will take a function. And this can be logged in. And after user is logged in, use a cookie to make this request and then return the tasks. So that will be discussed later, or you can see that before all. This also takes a function. Let me leave it. Here's reference. Now I think we're done with unit testing. That's all for unit testing. So what's next on our list? All our tests are passing. And in review, we started with how to test, what unit test and testing is all about, how all these frameworks are built, like the describe, the its. Let's say this request function here is similar to this, that has other function nested in it, within it, so that we can use to assert some values. And we have our test, and in this case, the test function is it. We can change our function here to it, and it still work. But like frameworks like, or libraries like Jest and Cypress uses it and test at the same time. But Mocha, I think Mocha only uses, sorry, Mocha. Sometimes I call it Mocha. Mocha only uses the test function. I mean the it function. So that's the reason why I decided to use the test here, and Mocha uses it. So I think we are cleared on this. So the next item on our list is CI/CD with GitHub Actions. Wow, wow, wow. This is interesting. And let's get over this really fast. Okay. I think I prepared, there's a link here. Understanding GitHub Actions. Here you learn the basics of GitHub Actions, including core concepts and essential terminology. The overview, the components of GitHub Actions, create an example workflow, understanding the workflow file, viewing the activity for a workflow run. Here's the overview. GitHub Actions, let me zoom in a little bit. GitHub Actions is a continuous integration and continuous delivery platform that allows you to automate your build, test, and deployment pipeline. You can create workflows that build and test every pull request to your repository, or deploy merged pull requests to production. So GitHub Actions goes beyond just DevOps and lets you run workflows when other events happen in your repository. For example, you can run a workflow to automatically add the appropriate labels whenever someone creates a new issue in your repository. So GitHub provides Linux, Windows, and macOS virtual machines to run your workflows, or you can host your own self-hosted runners in your own data center and cloud infrastructure. So this is actually the introduction to GitHub Actions, and let me just leave a link for you in the chat. Skills.github.com, I think. Let me just copy this and try to test it out. If it's actually, yes, it's working. That's it. Okay, so now the components of a GitHub Actions. You can configure a GitHub Action workflow to be triggered when an event occurs in your repository, such as a pull request being opened or an issue being created. Your workflow contains one or more jobs which can run in sequential order or in parallel. Each job will run inside its own virtual machine runner or inside a container and has one or more steps that either run a script that you define or run an action, which is a reusable extension that can simplify your workflow. So we have an event. An event is triggered, and we have runner one, run action, run script, run action. Then we have runner two. After the runner one is completed, we have runner two. We have the next is we have workflows. A workflow is a configurable automated process that will run one or more jobs. Workflows are defined by a YAML file checked into your repository and will run when triggered by an event in your repository, or they can be triggered manually or at a defined schedule. So workflows are defined in the GitHub's workflow directory in a repository. And a repository can have multiple workflows, each of which can perform a different set of tasks. For example, you can have one workflow to build and test pull requests, another workflow to deploy application every time a release is created, and still another workflow that adds label every time someone opens a new issue. So you can reference a workflow within another workflow. For example, you're using workflows. So when you open that link, you see how to create reusable workflows. Then we have events. An event is a specific activity in a repository that triggers a workflow run. For example, activity can originate from GitHub when someone creates a pull request, open an issue, and so on. So a job, we have jobs. A job is a set of steps in a workflow that is executed on the same runner. Each steps is either a script that will be executed or an action that will be run. Okay, let me just copy this as well, Command C, and then paste it for you here, so you can get access to it as well. So you can configure a job's dependencies with other jobs like before. We have actions. An action is a custom application for the GitHub Actions platform that performs a complex but frequently repeated task. Use an action to help reduce the amount of repetitive code that you write in your workflow. We have runners. A runner is a server that runs your workflow when they are triggered. Each runner can run a single job at a time. GitHub provides Ubuntu Linux, Microsoft Windows, and macOS runners to run your workflows. Each workflow can run, and each workflow executes a fresh, newly provisioned virtual machine. That is, each workflow run executes in a fresh, newly provisioned virtual machine. GitHub also offers larger runners, which are available in larger configurations. And this is an example workflow here. You create your GitHub workflows, your directory. This is length. This very one here before we write the actual one I have in mind for you to let you understand it. Okay. So inside of this GitHub folder here, we create another folder, workflows. And inside of the workflows, we create, let's see, test YAML like this. Okay. Test YAML like this. Okay, so this is where we write our workflow. So let's just see what we have here. We have a name, the run name. We have on the event here is the push event. Once we push our code to GitHub, this workflow will be triggered. Then we have the jobs, check back version, runs on Ubuntu latest. The steps, uses actions, check out V4, uses actions, set up node V3 with this. Okay, so what I will do here, I will just copy this. You don't have to go on typing that and that. We'll paste it here, then we save it. Okay, so I'll come here and say everything, commit actions, everything added, and say git push. What's happening? Okay, we have a pre-push. Wow, wow, wow. So two tests are failing. So this is not pushed. So let's come back to our Husky pre-push and then uncomment this. We come back to tests. Just make some changes so that we'll have something to push to GitHub. Then add everything. Commit GitHub actions again. Also git push. Now this will be pushed directly to our. Why is it taking time? Okay, so now let's open GitHub, go to our repo, our repository. It's taking time again. Okay, come here and then open. Wow, wow, wow. Open actions. Click on the actions and type here, click action. I can see the workflow is running. Christopher is learning GitHub actions. That is the name of the title of the. Now let's open the file. Let's come here, open the test YAML. Run name. The run name is GitHub actor is learning GitHub actions. And my GitHub username is, oops. My GitHub username is Christopher Sesu. So Christopher Sesu is learning GitHub actions. Now let's check here. Now set up job, run actions, and all of this. So the job now is completed. If you open complete job, open run batch V, batch version 1.10.0. Okay, so that's great. So now we want to run a script. We're actually not going into deployment to run a script that will deploy anything for us. But what we want to do now is we briefly run a script. We briefly write a script that will automate the whole process for us. And what this script will do is just let's rename this file here to, let's say, deploy, but we're not actually deploying anything. And then in here, we see the name is let's say CI/CD. That is the name. And the events we want to be triggered are on, we say on, say push. We need a push event to be triggered. We need this deploy YAML file, this workflow to be triggered when code is pushed to the branches. And in these branches, only main. Any other branch you push code, this workflow will not be triggered. So when the code is pushed to the main branch, or if any pull request, if a pull request like this, okay. If a pull request is opened, pull request, if it is opened, and the types of the pull request one is opened, synchronized. If it is synchronized, or let's say if it's opened or reopened. If a pull request was opened and it has been reopened again, this workflow should be triggered. And then the jobs here, jobs. We have, let's give it the name of the deploy, just for fancy, just for learning purposes. Branches, main, pull request, just for learning purposes. Deploy, I will say runs on Ubuntu latest. You can see runs on Windows. One is a valid pull request on push. Okay, it's 2L, not triple L. It runs on Ubuntu latest, and you can specify Mac OS or Windows, but we're using Ubuntu. And then the steps. The steps here, I have the name. Then here is check out code. So we want to check out our code so that we can perform all this. Then we have it uses actions / checkout at v2, the version 2 of actions / checkout. Actions checkout individual version not found. Okay. Actions. Wow. Let me see. Okay. Let it just be like that for now. And then the next step is set up node. So we want to set up node so that we can be able to run our tests and install dependencies as well. And this uses actions / setup node at v2. What is this? v2, and then it's not a string. I'm not supposed to be adding this. Okay. Let's go inside a little bit. Okay. Setup action, setup node v2. So we want to set up NodeJs so that we can be able to install dependencies and then run our workflow file. So with what? With Node version 18.x, can be 18.4, 18.1, 18.4, just 18.x. Then the next step is with the name of install dependencies. Dependencies. And this name is supposed to have a colon here, install dependencies. And then this will run npm, it will run np install. Remember that Node is being installed with npm. So once we install Node and we set up Node with Node version 18, it will call with npm. So now we can run npm install and everything will be installed. So after installation, we want to format our code. And you know what? Let us copy this. Paste it here. Do some like this. Like this. Okay. Let's see. The name here is not install dependencies, but then format code. I want to format code, format code. And then we see npm run. After installing everything, we've installed prettier and every other thing that is in our package JC. So say npm run prettier. Right. We want to format our code. If in case the developer that's committing these changes and opening the pull request forgot to format this code, we want to actually format the code. So we say npm run prettier right. And then the next thing is to run tests. You see, okay. So why is the line here? Column 6, map keys, substitute map. So this time around, it's not to format code, but to run test. They will say npm run test, npm run test, like this. And then after here, you can have another one like this. And this time around, we have as a deploy to cyclic. Then you see, you run this like this, come down here. Okay, let's just see, come down. Come down, and you see, you can just see anything. You can see echo deploying to cyclic. We don't want to go into writing details like, okay, if this is the main branch, deploy to cyclic. I will leave that up to you to go learn about it. But this is our workflow. Okay, so let me just explain this from beginning to end. So what it says, we have the name is CI/CD. There's continuous integration, continuous deployment workflow. So we have our events here. We have the push event and the pull request event. So anytime code is pushed to our main branch, this workflow will run. Or anytime a pull request is open, that is a pull request is opened or reopened, this workflow will still run. So this workflow, it actually runs on Ubuntu latest. And we have numerous steps here. We have about 5-6 steps. The first step is checkout code. This will use actions checkout v2 to check out our code. And then the next step here is set up Node. It will set up NodeJs so that we can use Node to install dependencies and then test code, run pretty, and run the rest. So after installing Node, the next step will continue, which is install dependencies. We do npm install, which will install everything that is inside of our package JC. So after installing, we want to format our code. We format this code, we need to run test. So if in case any of our test fails, we won't be able to, this code will not be deployed to production. So that is the use of this. You should all go learn about continuous integration and deployment and what the use of it. So after running the test pass, we want to deploy to cyclic. So this is actually automatic, but we can then set something, we can set it manually here that, okay, this, after this, do this, and then deploy to cyclic. So let's git add everything, git commit, and GitHub actions, automation. Okay, there's a git push. It's taking a little bit of time. And I think it's so now let's open our browser, go to GitHub. Okay, let's tap actions. Let's see if our workflow file is running. Oops. Okay, GitHub actions automation. That is our commit message. Let's open this. I can see the setup job, checkout code, setup node. All these ones are we've completed successfully. Found in couch. We already have this in couch, but this is okay. So it's now installing dependencies. Let's see the dependencies that it's installing here. Okay, we have Express Task Manager, prepare, Husky installs, GitHub, everything, found zero vulnerabilities and all of that. Okay, format code. Let's check out how it formatted our code. npm run prettier. So look at it formatted everything in the source folder. It run npx prettier write source slash everything. It formatted everything in our source folder. Then npm run test. Okay, this passed. 0%, 5 failing. Okay, connection refused. Oh. Okay. Mm, that is where mocking and stubbing comes in, because actually here the connection will refuse and our code will not be deployed to Cyclic. Now, if you open Cyclic, you see that this code is not deployed because our tests are not passing. So let's open our YAML file and then let's just remove this and then say echo all tests passed. So git commit GitHub actions automation and then git push. Okay, a little bit of time. Okay, we're there. So let's click on actions button on the tab again. As you can see, this does not pass, so it's red. This passed and it's in green. Checked. This does not pass. Did not pass. So let's check this one, how it's going. Okay, it's installing dependencies now. As you can see here. Okay, it formatted our code, run the test. So let's see. Okay, it's run echo all tests pass. So it's echoed all tests passed. And then here, if you come to deploy to Cyclic, you will see run echo deploy to Cyclic. So deploy to Cyclic, and that's so this is post setup node, post job cleanup. So it's cleaning up our job and running everything. Now, if you open up Cyclic, you see that our code is deployed and working. Okay, so this is just an introduction to GitHub Actions, how you can automate tests, formatting of your code, and every other thing. So you can go check out GitHub Actions and make sure you learn how everything about it and how it works. As you can see, check out repository, install node, action setup node v3, install bats, this and that. Okay. The event here is push and the runner is Ubuntu latest. So you can check out all of this. Okay, you can in review, we learned unit testing with Mocha and super tests, and we also introduced CI/CD with GitHub Actions. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask. If not, we can call it a day and then we'll meet in our next class.